my biggest question for McKenzie Milton is, do you still have the fear of the comeback? In the sense of, this is a man who, we've talked about this before, has not taken a snap since November of 2018. It's been well documented how horrific of a leg and knee injury that he did suffer. You're coming to Tallahassee with an offensive line that, with all due respect, is still not great. Is it better than it has been over the last couple seasons? Yes, probably, but it still is nowhere close to an offensive line that you really want to be around at this point. So I guess my biggest question is there some fear going into that Notre Dame game, the fact that you haven't taken a snap in over 2 calendar years? Is there a little fear in the back of your mind about that first hit, about that first time you get sacked, that first time you get blindsided?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Logan, try to top that.
That's tough. I don't know if I can be able to do it. I would say for me, I would ask him if he's starting. I'm just kidding. No, but I would ask him about the talent that he has around him this upcoming year. It's not that crazy of a question, but this offense has a lot of potential, I think. There's a lot of guys in that backfield that you got with Toafili, young running back. You've got, I would say, a veteran, but he will be a kind of a veteran. He's still very young, but you got Deshaun Corbin. You've also got Treshaun Ward and DJ Williams, Auburn transfer. But I want to know about the talent that he's got, because officially arriving when he came, he was already beginning to train once Andrew Parchment arrived in Tallahassee. They began training immediately, which he's expecting. Parchment is expecting to have a big season for FSU and have explosive plays, and that's something Milton, I'm sure, will comment on tomorrow about the explosive capabilities this offense can have. And he's also got, you've got tight ends, and you got to hope that the progression at the offensive line is getting better. So I'm interested to see, if I could ask him, I would ask him about the talent that is around on that offense. If he is truly at that helm and he's starting in that first quarter against Notre Dame, how excited is he about that talent? I also want to know some details on who he's been working with the most and who he might be most excited for.
I want to call on the gentleman from Connecticut, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, MarkRogersTV.com. Mark, you have a question for Mr. Milton?
I do. Can I rip off my 3 questions for my 1 question for each of the?
Yeah, you know what?
3?
We'll do it. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
At least 2 of these questions are the type questions that won't be asked at media days. They're the type questions that I would love to hear the answer, but it would have to be closed door. Truth serum would have to be injected. Those type of questions, because they're never going to answer 2 of these 3 questions in front of media. For Jermaine Johnson, I want to know from him, based on his experience at Florida State thus far, how good of a D coordinator is Adam Fuller based on what he's seen here versus his experience in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know from McKenzie Milton to compare the roster talent on this Florida State team versus what he played with at UCF in 2017 and 18. And I want Jordan Travis to tell me why he is going to be a better thrower of the football this season than he was last season. What has he done to make himself a better, not better quarterback, just thrower of the football now versus last season?
It's all really good questions. It's almost like you've done this professionally before.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Those are pretty good. I think along those same lines, my questions for I gave a question for Milton. My question for Johnson would be, you've come from Georgia. You've come from a program that's played in the SEC championship game. You come from a program that, in 2017 was playing for the national title. You're coming to a Florida State program that's had its 3rd straight losing season for the first time since the mid-'70s. I guess my biggest question for him would be why. Aside from playing time, aside from being able to, play what I would, you could argue the schedule's horrific this season as far as how tough it is, but it's still not the SEC. So why make the move from a Georgia program to a real rebuilding Florida State program? My question for Jordan Travis would be, do you feel like you've done enough to be the starter? I think, Logan's made excellent points where Logan has talked about how he thinks that Jordan Travis will start the opener against Notre Dame. You could make a legitimate argument that after last season, Jordan Travis should start. I mean, he was the reason in several of those games. Probably you could argue he's one of the main reasons we beat North Carolina. You have that. I mean, the comeback against Jacksonville State. Yes, I just said those words. I can't believe I just had to say those words. The comeback against Jacksonville State. Oh, gross. That did not taste well. But I feel like there's an argument why he should be the starter. I do think McKenzie Milton will be the starter because it's the big name. I think it's a lot like Everett Golston was in 2015. But I think the question for Jordan is, do you think you've earned it? What do you think, Logan? What are your two questions for Jermaine and for Jordan?
For Jermaine, I want to ask him kind of a little bit like both of y'all's. Mainly, I think more like Jason's, but really asking him what has been the difference between Georgia and Florida State with him. Not only just maybe the talent that's around him, but the facilities and everything of that nature. And, kind of get his I would like to get a true answer on that and see if it really does mean something, if the training facilities, does it really mean all the hoopla, or does it just strictly football business when you get there? So I'm interested. I would be interested to hear his comment on that. And then going to Jordan Travis, I want to ask him if he feels open to sharing the quarterback room, sharing that starting position with McKenzie Milton. It seems like Florida State, you're bringing both quarterbacks to the ACC kickoff. We are going to see a lot of them this season. And is it really going to be a dual threat quarterback literal system there with having McKenzie Milton and Jordan Travis? And does he feel comfortable with that, or does, either way, they're going to answer it and how their SID has trained them, and worked with them. But I'd be interested to get his take on, if he feels comfortable with having a 2-quarterback system at Florida State, because we haven't really seen that much. You're not used to seeing that at Florida State, of having a 2-quarterback system. And that we've seen it before, but that's whenever crap has hit the fan and you're kind of just throwing guys out there.
Yeah, that thought scares me. We've tried that before. We tried it before, not to the same extent that they did at Florida in '97 with Doug Johnson, Noah Brandeis. But we've tried it before. The thought scares me. I feel like if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have